Hi there, this is Leah Jorgensen with Strong as Oak Holistic Nutrition, based in Portland, Oregon. And this is the 6th in my podcast series on holistic nutrition. And today I'm very pleased to have a friend of mine and a former instructor from the Wellsprings School of Healing Arts, where I studied holistic nutrition. I welcome Tressa Yellig. Tressa taught the Whole Foods cooking courses at the school, and that's how I became acquainted with Tressa. But more importantly, we're here to talk about her passion for bone broths. Tressa owns a business called Salt, Fire, and Thyme, which is a really wonderful Whole Foods-based Weston Price Foundation-inspired business, which I'll let her talk more about. And she's opening a new spot called Broth Bar, which is very exciting here in Portland. There's nothing like it, quite like it, that's been done here in Portland. It's a cafe dedicated to bone broths and some other fun things. So Tressa, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am delighted to have you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Salt, Fire, and Thyme first, and how that became a brainchild and came into be a place, an actual brick and mortar place where you do your work.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Well, while I was in cooking school in New York, I really fell in love with traditional foods, and it inspired me to go join the first community-supported kitchen, Three Stone Hearth, in Berkeley at the time, and it was the most immediate medicine I'd ever been exposed to. More so than a lot of the diet philosophies that I'd been studying in school. Mm-hmm. And that's really what got me excited, was starting to realize the consequences of our food choices are immediate. Mm-hmm. And so if we have access to something that can affect our health, our frame of mind, our emotion immediately, why don't we pay more attention to that? And I think it's because people have lost touch with the consequence of their decision-making around food, and also with the way they're physiologically feeling. Mm-hmm. So to give people a positive experience for the first time, like I had, was really something I wanted to offer. I couldn't believe that that resource didn't exist yet for folks that really needed it, because most people, when they're looking to clean up their act around food, tend to do so when they're ill, mm-hmm. which is when they are least motivated energetically, as you well know. Mm-hmm. To pursue a big change, especially a lifestyle change. And that's something that was so accessible about traditional foods, was that here's something that's not just going to bring the body back into balance and help heal whatever imbalance the body is struggling with, mm-hmm. But also it's something that ongoing acts as a preventative toward future illness, but also an immune strengthener. It's delicious every day. There's a lot of history and nostalgia that goes into traditional eating. It was peasant medicine, before we had the science to back it up, that was also just delicious everyday food thrift. This is just what people did. They didn't call it medicine. This was how they got it done. Yeah. So I couldn't believe that no one was doing it that way. And so 6 years ago, when I got the opportunity to start this business, it was after my own healing crisis of sorts, which just reinforced my decision to make these kinds of foods. But then coming to Portland, discovering how Portland wanted to engage it, it's taken a lot of different forms. Mm-hmm. But the one thing consistently through that process that I always felt really ethically responsible for making, even if the public didn't really understand why it was so precious to me, mm-hmm. was the bone broth. Hmm. So that's how it began. And so here we are 6 years later, after many iterations of this business and many recipes and many products and many classes and many clients later, and a place where finally there's some publicity around bone broth getting some attention, long-earned attention, mm-hmm. For being something that deserves a place in every day in people's lifestyles, as a restorative but also as a medicinal. And so that's why we're working on this new project we're calling Broth Bar, to really not just offer people a product, mm-hmm. but an everyday experience, because we're a culture built on efficiencies. Mm-hmm. And if, compliance is always a big issue with clients, no matter how much you educate them and how much hand-holding there is, when they leave your office, mm-hmm. making sure they follow through on your recommendations is sometimes, you cross your fingers and you hope. Right. But you don't know if they'll follow through. Right. So having a place where people who are unfamiliar can begin to experience these products has been a long dream of mine, and now it's finally coming to a reality.
It's amazing, and for a second, I'll just segue for a second. As a holistic nutritionist working and operating in Portland and having a client base, it's nice to be able to have resources, because this was, aside from what you were doing with Salt, Fire, and Thyme, there really wasn't anything like this available. Even though we live in a community where there is a lot of whole foods options, and people are farm to table focused and looking for the best ingredients and what's in season and being mindful about food, it's nice to see you taking this to a whole nother level of an opportunity to educate people about why certain food systems are really important to us in terms of medicine, health, well-being, happiness. So back to the bone broth, that became your sort of focal point, would you say, with your business?
It has.
Okay.
It's more in the beginning, it was almost a totem. And now
I like that.
Definitely become the backbone. I mean, the bone broth as our flagship product, and we now have 6 flavors, amazingly.
Tell us about the flavors you have.
We have chicken, beef, turkey, lamb, pork, and bison. And it's really the backbone. It's what supports the rest of the kitchen. And so it's nice that people are paying attention to that. But it also gives us entree to share a lot of the other products that before might have been seen as just some high-end hypoallergenic foods. Now there's room to talk about cooking with them, integrating them, why they're clean, why they're hypoallergenic, why they are filling that niche in the marketplace for foods that are high quality, prepared traditionally with digestion, absorption, and nutrient density in mind. But again, they can be delicious.
Right.
They have to be delicious.
Right. So what's the magic behind the bone broth? Why the bone broth?
What makes the bone broth so incredibly special is that almost everything that the body is dealing with begins with an imbalance in the gut. Whether it's psychological or even just emotional. There's an energetic component to what happens in our gut. So the digestive aspect of where our health begins is foundational. And it's interesting, and not without noting, that broth and stock, in any other language, the word for it tends to mean foundation, le fond. It is the base. It's what everything is built upon. And it also, interestingly, helps restore our base, our foundation, what everything else is built upon. And so what's great about the bone broth is it's a very simple process. Bones are cooked in a lightly acidulated water at a very low temperature for a very long time.
When you say lightly acidulated, do you